Hey guys, Brett here, and today we have Michael, not from Maine, Michael the coder. And Mike is going to tell us about a new WordPress security plugin that he has developed. So, Michael, thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
Yeah, no problem. Hey guys, Michael Thomas here, the other one.
Now, I'm going to say right from the beginning, I met Michael Thomas, the other one, in Las Vegas and in Orlando, Florida this year. And he is a software developer. He's a great software developer. And he's somebody that has personally helped me with security on my own site. He's actually pointed out issues that some of my sites had. I'm not going to tell you what they are, but they have been fixed. But he's actually helped me with security. So when I saw that he was releasing a new security WordPress plugin, it was something that I was very interested in because I know for a fact that this guy knows his stuff when it comes with security. And I also know that WordPress being an open source platform can have some serious security issues. So Michael, why don't we start off and talk about some of the things that might happen to people when they have WordPress? What's the worst can happen to somebody?
Well, it really depends on the type of site that you're running as to how big of a target you've got painted on your back, Brett. So if you've got, like, say, a site where you're dealing with credit card information or something like that, someone might be able to steal that information directly from your site. If you've got PayPal API information in there, someone could get into your PayPal account, take all of your money that way. Or at the very least, if you've just got a little niche site and you're not too worried about it, someone might just get on there and start putting, hacktivism type stuff or, ISIS propaganda or something like that. The sky's the limit ultimately, when it comes to your site. And it really depends on what sort of information you've got there as to how much damage can be done once someone gets in behind the door.
What I often think about is, and I've heard people that actually say this happened to them, where they'll go to their website and all of a sudden they see the Google red screen of death. This site has been detected for malware. And you know what? 90% of the time, what happens is the people didn't do anything wrong. It's their site got hacked and somebody did this. And whether they realize it or not, they've been spreading malware without even knowing it because their site was hacked 6 months ago or 4 months ago, and this has been happening. And finally, they got caught by Google, and now their whole site's down. So even for people, I think even for people that don't have they're not storing credit cards or they're not really selling something, the worst, you could lose your site because once Google does that, you have a heck of a time getting it, prove it to showing Google that it's not done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a good point actually, and that there's actually an entire underground market for selling backlinks off websites that are essentially hacked backlinks. And whenever a site is sort of discovered to have been compromised in this way, Google's pretty quick to give them a slap down because they need those backlinks not to count anymore for SEO purposes. So I don't know if you've heard of SAPE or not, Brett.
No, I haven't heard of that.
SAPE. Yeah, it's a massive multi-million dollar marketplace where hacked backlinks are bought and sold, and the majority of those sites are WordPress, where sites have been compromised in some way and backlinks have been put on them to rank someone else's site. In the meantime, it's killing off the actual site that they're sitting on.
Now, I would think that one of the major problems with WordPress is that the fact that it's also one of its strengths, though, by the way, is the fact that it's open source. So that means, WordPress obviously has things built in for security, but also WordPress is open source. So the way I always think of this is it's like building a safe and then giving all the thieves the blueprint to the safe and then wondering why it's not secure, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the other problem is it's sort of a safe with holes in the side where other people that don't really know much about safes can try and add things on. And if they get it wrong, then, there are bigger holes in the safe as well. It's sort of, it goes a step further than that. I mean, WordPress is popular because it's so easy to develop code for. But the problem is that also means that you get a lot of, programmers in there who don't, really know what they're doing, or they might skip some steps or something like that. And, that can lead to problems down the road as far as security is concerned.
Well, that's important too. Yeah, the add-ons. A lot of people don't realize that when somebody writes a plugin, they understand what plugin does, but they don't understand that it becomes a part of the WordPress code. It goes through the WordPress loop. So that means any new issues that are in your plugin all of a sudden become an issue with your site as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, WordPress itself is actually, WordPress at its core is actually fairly secure. The majority of the vast majority of the problems with WordPress really come from plugins and themes that people install afterwards. And especially, if people are trying to source them from dubious locations where, they might have had some exploit or something added into them afterwards just to try and get onto someone's site. That happens more often than you'd originally think.
Oh, I never even thought of that. That's actually something it never even occurred to me. Is that people, some nefarious person could actually write a useful plugin and then distribute it through forums or however they're going to distribute it, knowing that it has a hole in it, and you install this plugin, you just gave them your site.
Exactly. I mean, as a fellow developer, as soon as someone's got the slightest bit of access on your site, the whole thing's wide open, right, Brett?
Oh yeah. Once they get your stuff, I mean, bad things can happen. I mean, like I said, you can wake up one day and have that red screen, and then you're pretty much screwed, because what happens is, you're guilty until proven innocent. You end up trying to be in a position where you've got to prove to Google that you didn't do anything wrong. They're not going to take a risk on you. They don't know you. They honestly don't care about you. They're saying, look, show us and prove to us. And until you can do that, and if you can't, if you're not a technical person, first of all, if you're not a technical person, you're not going to get rid of the problem anyway. And if you finally do get rid of the problem, now you have to prove to Google that you got rid of the problem. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they don't really have a real reason to invest much of their time to look into it and sort of, decide that you're right as well, because if your site's ranking for SEO purposes or something like that, you're not actually paying them for that. You're getting free traffic, and they're not that interested in helping you.
Yeah, you're just 1 in 100 billion. They don't, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Like,
sorry. You can have 1/100 billionth of our attention.
Yes. And yeah, at the end of the day, that means, I guess you kind of need to do your very best to keep people out in the first place, rather than try and clean up after the fact. Prevention is much better than the cure, put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So the question that I have, though, is one that we were talking about briefly before we started this call, is there are other security plugins out there. So what makes your security plugin better than the other security plugins?
Well, there are a lot of other security plugins out there, that's for sure. And they're good at what they do. Or most of the time they're good at what they do, you would hope. What they don't focus on is vulnerability defense. So the main issue that I sort of deal with in my plugin is trying to detect, for lack of a better way of describing it, bad-looking people from getting into the site. So anyone who's sort of acting suspicious, maybe they're sort of poking around at some URLs that don't make any sense, or they're sending some information at your website that looks like it's some sort of virus or some sort of exploit, it blocks that and notifies you about it. So it's sort of, rather than trying to deal with the more typical stuff that most security plugins deal with, which is is someone trying to log in with 100,000 different passwords, over the course of 3 weeks, it's more, does this look like someone's trying to exploit a hole that's been inadvertently left in a plugin or theme on my site? And so that's the main feature of WPSiteGuardian, and what it tries to address.
So it's more of an intelligence system, more of a hey, I'm recognizing this behavior. This is behavior that does not seem like anything that any normal user would do.
Exactly right.
Whereas,
right.
And you're right. I've seen other plugins where they try to stop the brute force login. I mean, you can do that with a CAPTCHA, so you don't really need anything special, which is probably what a lot of security plugins do. They'll stop brute force login attempts and say, oh, we're a security plugin.
Yeah, exactly.
But what yours is doing is it's kind of taking it a step further, and it's really like tracking and monitoring the user's behavior and saying this is not something the admin would normally do. This is not something a user should even think about doing. Something's not right here.
Yeah, exactly. It's a guard dog sitting in the house looking at the windows for someone wearing a balaclava with a lockpick, basically.
Awesome. Now, the question that comes to mind, though, is this going to be hard to set up? Is this going to be something that I have to be technical, or I have to understand these exploits in order to set up and use? I know, say, for example, a lot of servers, you go into WHM, a lot of servers have security. There's mod security and stuff. And if you just give that to a general person, you give them access to WHM and start writing your mod security rules, they're going to be like, well, what the hell do I do now? So is this something like that, or is this something that's more user friendly? What kind of knowledge are people going to need in order to be able to use this?
Yeah, the amount of knowledge needed to set it up is very minimal. So for your average site, say just a regular WordPress blog, with regular content, you can just install the plugin and turn it on, and then you're pretty well protected. If you're using, certain plugins, there might be a conflict, or not a conflict, but a false positive detected. So WPSiteGuardian might sort of pick up, oh, this, this looks like suspicious behavior when it's actually legitimate behavior. And in the event that that happens, you'll just need to add an exception for that. But that's a one-click thing for all plugins. So it's a very straightforward process.
So yeah, all you're really doing then in that case is saying, look, I know about this. It's okay. Calm down, doggy. He's safe. Yeah. You can let him in.
Yeah, exactly. My friend Bob wears a balaclava and turns up with lockpicks, so he's fine. But yeah, block the other guys.
Can you just show us the plugin real quick? I mean, I don't know. I don't want to.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Figure it out.
No problem. Yeah, can you see that screen? Is that showing up now?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so yeah, what you're seeing here is the plugin on the status screen. So this is on one of my sites that I have this installed on, and this is just the real-time hack information. So this is legitimate hacks against my site. So it's actually surprising, when you get this installed, as to how many attempts are actually taken against the average site on any given day. The yellow information, or the yellow bars here, represent how many individual attacks have occurred against my site. The red line indicates the severity or impact of those sites, and the green bit down the bottom indicates any specific IP addresses, which you don't need to know about this bit, but any specific IP addresses that have been permanently blocked because they've been causing too much trouble. So that's the status. But in terms of actually setting up the plugin and getting in and using it right away, all you'll need to do is just install it like any normal WordPress plugin. Pop in your license key here, which I'm just using a professional license key. I was recording a demo earlier. Set the mode to enabled reverse proxy or enabled Cloudflare mode, depending on how your hosting's set up. There's instructions on how you can decide which mode is right for you, and then click on Save Changes. And that's it for getting the basic mode set up. It's all ready to rock and roll after that.
Okay, cool. That seems pretty easy. And you're right. You were saying about the number of security issues or the number of attacks that people have. If I'm not mistaken, there's like script kiddies out there that basically just have automated systems that just search out, like automated bots that search out vulnerabilities. Isn't that how that works?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in fact, if you give me just a second, I can probably pull up the email notifications, which is a little bit easier to see, just how many attacks are happening against a site at any given time. And since I actually know a bit about what I'm looking at, I can sort of decipher what they are and sort of see that most of the time it is people just scanning with automated tools. So just a second, I'll just pull up all these email notifications. Okay, here we go. So this is just in my email. This is all just, attacks.
This is the plugin? The plugin is actually sending these notifications to you?
Yeah, it's sending these notifications to me. So, I mean, you can see the, the date on the right-hand side here. These are all in November, just a little while ago. Scrolling down.
Is that like an option? If I wanted to, I can have it send me notifications when an issue happens, or?
Yeah. By default, it'll send you the notifications. I'll just click over and show you where you can set that up. So by default, it'll send you notifications for any attack that is at a certain severity level. So, it defaults to 10. I drop mine down. It defaults to 20. I drop mine down to 10. Again, there are instructions for this, in the members area. But, if you didn't want to get them at all, you could just put the threshold up to something quite high, like 100 or 1,000. You won't get notified at all. And, for some websites, people prefer not to get the notifications sent to them, and they prefer them to go to, say their webmaster or, someone else who is sort of more responsible for dealing with, their website security or plugins or, that sort of stuff. And so they can just easily drop a different email address in the admin email address field here and have those notifications go directly to them rather than, hearing all of that noise about your site being attacked.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of like I don't want to hear the dog barking, just bite the bad guy.
Yeah, pretty much. But maybe you want your security guy in the other room to hear the dog barking. So get the dog to bark at him instead.
There you go.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So basically, for the most users, they're just going to have to install this and then that's it. They can pretty much set up if they want to block people, how like their threshold almost, which is like a tolerance for how much they want to allow to happen. And you said you explained that in the tutorials. I actually noticed that there was tutorials built into the plugin, or at least a link. You didn't show it, but I can see that they're right in the plugin there.
Yeah, all of the videos are built right into the plugin as well. That's right.
That's actually one of my biggest pet peeves ever, is when people like sell a plugin or even like a downloaded software and like it doesn't have any help section. It's like, look, why can't you just embed them into the damn plugin? Why you gotta make me log into a members area? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's good. I saw that. So basically, install it, set your threshold, decide if you want to get emails, and that's it. You're covered, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, and then as I said, you know, if there are any false positives that get picked up, you know, because you're using some weird obscure plugin that does something in a bit of a funny way, then you'll just need to add an exception for that, which is a one-click thing. And again, I go over that in the training as well, so everyone should know how to do that with no problems.
Awesome. Well, I know for sure, like I said, you and I have spoken about security for a while. We spoke about it in Orlando. We spoke about it again in Las Vegas. We spoke about it about an hour ago. So I know for sure that you know what you're talking about when it comes to security. And I definitely think that this is going to be something that people are going to need. Maybe they don't realize they need it now. I mean, this is kind of like the oil change in your car. It's like, you don't think like, oh man, I really don't need an oil change because like I don't see anything happening. But then when your damn motor blows up, you're like, man, I wish I would have got the freaking oil change, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is that, you know, people spend so much time on their websites. You know, they spend so much time writing content, like setting up plugins and themes and like choosing media and making everything look all nice. And then if someone comes along and defaces your site, you know, you might just sort of lose all of that. You have to start again, or, you know, roll back to your last backup, which, you know, might have been from a month ago or something. And, you know, that's a whole lot of time, you know, that you potentially lose.
Well, even besides like the rolling back and stuff, and I mean, like I noticed if my site went down, if Google were to all of a sudden like start saying that my site's, you know, detected as a malware site or a spyware site, now I've been building my site up for 3 years. I finally got it to where I got an Alexa rating of about 25,000. I got good traffic. I get 30% from SEO. If I lost my site overnight, it would freaking break my heart.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know. So I think like it just doesn't even make sense. If you're going and you're building something, if you have a website, I mean, if you have a niche website, let's be honest, if you have a niche website and you have 500 of them, probably one site isn't going to mean anything to you. Like one site down, okay, shit, I lost one of the eggs in the basket of 500 eggs, right? Not a big deal. But if you have any type of authority site, if you have a review site, if you have any type of site where you're really trying to build up, you're really trying to build a reputation to, it just doesn't make sense to just leave it out there completely vulnerable and saying, oh, gee, I hope nothing bad happens. So, yeah, I definitely think this is something that people need. I know that you know what you're doing. Well, Michael, thank you for taking the time to talk to us today, and good luck on your launch tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks, Brett. Thanks for having me.